Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We've said this before. If you're going to redesign your living space, your workspace, you have to have a purpose in mind. She established that with us. Makes perfect sense. Our purpose today is designing or redesigning with children in mind. Kind of changes everything in terms of how you approach things, safety, and such. And we're going to dig into that today with a fantastic interior designer, Marcia Moore is back with us. Welcome. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, this is something that we haven't talked about. I don't even remember even looking at children's rooms
Yeah,
since we've gotten together.
we haven't talked about it at all. So
Hmm. Um, what's your first thought? Somebody comes to you and says, right, maybe we'll center on a kid's bedroom. You know, we can pick any
yeah.
room, your choice.
So first of all, I need to know how old their kids, how old they are, whether they're male or female, and how they're going to use a particular space. If it's a room with just one child, or whether two children are sharing the room, or if it's like a lower level rec room, how it's going to be functioning, what the functions will be for that. So I have all kinds of those kind of questions. And then it's also helpful to know, like, if one of the children has ADHD or any kind of special need, or if they're just one of them loves to read and wants a little tiny, a nook for reading or that kind of thing. So I need to know a little bit about the kids before I start out.
I want to say this, and it's not about me, but I think I have to share it. So in 2014, I moved. I've since sold that house, but I moved partly for my kids. And where I was, I didn't have kids at that time. I had an older one, but not younger. And that house, loved the architecture, loved the neighborhood. However, it was a little small and there was no basement. So, yeah, just didn't have as much space. The master bedroom, they had done a redesign. The master bedroom was huge, two closets, wonderful, walk in, wonderful. Kids' rooms, kind of tight. So I was like, oh, all right. So I found a house, everything fit into place, has a basement, big yard, all of that. I move. And the idea was the kids they have the basement. So I bought an air hockey table. I set up my son's video stuff, had the gaming chairs. You know, I'm a geek with tech. So I was like, everything's all set up, everything's fantastic.
Yeah.
Here we go. They never used it.
Yeah.
It
That
was,
happens.
I don't want to say it was a waste because I had some workout equipment down there and the laundry room. But short of that, it wasn't used. And at the time, my daughter was younger and she would say, well, I'm afraid to go down there, because it's dark. So I, had the light on, motion sensor. And she's saying, well, the light would go off. So then I disconnected that. My son never used it for gaming. It was like a palace. So just make sure before,
Yeah.
that you're making those changes. And I'm happy that I moved there because everything else was great. And but the basement was never used
Yes.
and was fully
Yes.
finished. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
keep that in mind. I'm only sharing it.
hmm
I might have looked at it differently. Maybe I wouldn't have moved. I don't know, but you have to make sure that it fits.
Right, right. Yeah, a lot of times some kids want to be around their parents a lot, so they want to do homework at the kitchen table as opposed to in their bedroom.
Point.
So yeah, you have to know your kid to begin with and know what they need. So those are all the questions we ask first. And then so what I'm going to talk about mostly today is up until teenage years, because
Yep.
that's all the important things about no sharp corners, no breakables, no small objects, all those things that you do for babies and little kids is harder for some people to wrap their heads around than what you're going to do for teenagers. By that time, you've had kids for a long time, so you know what you're doing,
hmm
hopefully.
Yeah. Yes.
It's a
And
whole nother ball game when they turn teenagers.
right. And my kids were obviously preteen at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
A lot of considerations and comes right back to safety, right?
So you were talking about the house and how you thought it was going to function. When my son was second grade, I think, we moved into a new house, and the upstairs was his bedroom, a bathroom, and a guest room. The main level was all my room and all the main living areas, and then the lower level had a family room in it. And I had parties with friends who had kids of all ages. So it worked out really well. This is not something I even thought of, but it ended up working out really well because all the little kids would congregate up in Luke's room upstairs, and the adults would all be on the main level. And then the lower level family room is where all the teenage kids hung out. So it was a great way to have a party when you all had to be inside and everybody had their spot, and they didn't feel like, the teenagers didn't feel like they had to be around the little kids, and the little kids weren't underfoot. The adults could
Mm.
actually enjoy themselves. So it was the perfect layout for that.
What about the individual rooms themselves? I'm sure a lot you can do in terms of building in bedding and all of that. Anything that comes to mind for you?
So, yeah, if it depending on how many kids are going to be in a room, if you need to have bunk beds or that kind of thing because there's two kids in there, then we take a look at building it in, or sometimes the bunk bed can one could be up high and then you've got a desk underneath it. So there's all kinds of arrangements to do there. One of the things that I always make sure of is that no bed is up high and close to a ceiling fan where
Mm.
they can get to it at all. You don't want them chopping off their hands. So the layout of the room is, again, do your kids want to do their homework in their rooms so that we need a desk in there, or do they want to be out in the living room? My son was an only child and I was a single parent. He hated being in his room because he was alone, and he was alone a lot. So when it was just the two of us at home, he wanted to do his homework at the dining room table so that he could be near me. Going to his room was a punishment to him, even
Mm.
though there was a TV and all kinds of toys and everything. That what he didn't want to be alone. So yeah, one of those know your kid and know what they need kind of things. One of the things that I like to do for kids is chalkboard walls. And
Mm.
again, where is this chalkboard wall going to go? If you only have one child, it can be in their room so they can mess up that wall. Nobody sees it. You can wipe it off every once in a while. But if you've got more than one child, then you can't have the other kid coming into the one kid's room and that's my board. You can't play in here. So then maybe it needs to be in your lower level or in whatever room is where they play a lot. One time I did a chalkboard that was underneath the kitchen island where where there was island seating. So underneath there, where you would run your feet up against the cabinets, we made it a chalkboard wall so the kids could play there, and it was pretty much invisible once you put the chairs or the stools in front of it. So it was a great place to do that.
What a cool idea.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
And it keeps them in the room so you can watch
Uh-huh.
them.
Right,
And
right.
side note, back to the ceiling fan, it's my opinion that a ceiling fan probably shouldn't be in a kid's room. I'm just saying. And my daughter, this was 2 years ago, so she was 14.
Hmm.
Her and her friends already got to the ceiling fan. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
You know, it was what can we do with that?
Yeah.
So there's little the one of the globe on there, a
What
little
can
bit
we
of broken.
throw up there and make it twirl around? Yeah.
No injuries reported, nothing bad, but it's
Yep.
in hindsight, it's a new toy for what it doesn't matter what
Hmm.
age, even if
Hmm.
if they're teenagers sitting on the bed like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, what do I
Yeah.
do there? Yeah, that's my opinion, but I figured I'd check. Uh,
Another thing with that goes along with chalkboard walls, if you use semi-gloss paint in a room, it's much easier to wash it off as opposed to flat paint.
for
So
sure.
in a kid's room, the shinier, the better as far as washing it off. And some paints are very washable and some aren't. So that's one thing I always look at.
Should you
Another,
even consider going as glossy as you can to the point where it doesn't look ridiculous? Because I look at a lot of institutions, schools, it's always
very
very
glossy.
shiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so the bad part about glossy paint is it shows every imperfection in your wall. The higher the sheen, the more it shows imperfections. But in a kid's room, that's, who cares? Kids destroy things anyway. That's their role in life. So
Right. And it also shows your painting ability as well.
yes, it does.
Every stroke there, it's like, it's almost like a ticking time bomb when if you're rollering it, got to get done before it starts drying over here. They'll
Yeah,
mash it all in.
yeah,
So, but there is many advantages of that because you can wipe it off,
yeah.
when it gets
While
dirty.
we're on the subject of paint, frequently have moms say, "Oh, she wants to paint her room bright purple, and I just hate purple. I don't want that." And I'm like, "No problem. I can deal with that." So what I do is I always want kids to be involved in what we're putting in their rooms. That's their room. They should get to a say in it. Um, but it also needs to be a paint color that the parents are okay with.
Hmm.
So I ask that they choose the bed linens first. If the bed linens are going to be pink and purple and have unicorns on it, or it's going to be Harry Potter or whatever the theme is, we want all that theme stuff to be in things that are disposable, like your bed linens, or a pillow or something. We don't want to put wallpaper up that's Harry Potter wallpaper, and then 3 years later the kid is out of Harry Potter land and it hates his wallpaper.
Yep.
So I have them choose that stuff, and then I can choose the paint color that goes on the walls that looks good with the bed linens. And what I do is choose 3 or 4 colors of that purple that I know is going to go with the bed linens, and it's always a softer, nicer version of whatever the child wants. And then I have a discussion with them and they get to choose it, but they choose from those 4 colors. And 9 times out of 100, they're good with that. They just wanted to have the choice.
Really good point. Yeah. But it's instead of, the free for all, pick a color, honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give them options.
Yeah. Great idea. See
Another
you.
fun thing to do on a wall is if you do a few geometric lines on a wall, then you can have 3 or 4 different paint colors. And if they really do want, if they're dead set on some kind of really bright purple, that goes in your smallest little geometric area. And then you have 3 other kinds of purple or other colors on the wall that are the majority of the wall. So again, they get to have what they want, but it's not overall the entire room.
What about storage?
Storage is definitely something that you need to take care of for kids. So when you have little kids, and they're at the point where they need to dress themselves, then the closet needs to have hangers or little cubbies that are on their level. So rather than having everything hang up high, you have things that hang down low. So what I've done before is you have high storage and low storage. The low storage is summer clothes in the summer. The high storage is your winter clothes so that it's out of sight and they can't get to it. Or things that you don't want them to put on all the time, like a good dress or a good coat or whatever that is only used occasionally. Um, and then the storage bins need to be easy for them to get in and out of. So they either have to be really, really good rollers on them, or lightweight plastic or whatever that's easy for them to use. And clear is better than not clear, because half of the world doesn't know it exists if they have to open up a drawer. If they can
Hmm.
see it, they know it's there. If they have to open it up to see it, they will forget all about it. So
What about storage, seating and building it within? So it's kind of permanent. It has like a dual function.
so I love built-ins. I do that frequently. Again, you have to make sure that that built-in is going to age well with the child. So if you do a built-in and it's the size of what a 4-year-old needs, then you're going to have to rip it out and redo it when they get to be 11 or 12 and they're a lot taller. So, and bigger and need a bigger seat. So, it's fun to have a window seat under a window in a kid's room, and maybe have if you have the room if the room's big enough, you can have built in like bookcase kind of things on either side of that, where you have lower level storage that's behind doors rather than drawers, because those kind of drawers would get heavy and easy for them to pull out on top of themselves. But behind the doors, you could have games and things that are not pretty. And
Hmm.
then a few open shelves above where they can put their, when my son was young, it was Beanie Baby collection. So whatever whatever's
Hmm.
popular at that time.
What about shelving? Because now you're bringing back memories of the house I just mentioned, where I started putting up shelves. I try to make them attractive, and just
Mhm.
those collections, if you will,
Right.
would go up there. Any thoughts on that?
So I love having a few things out where they can see them, the things that they really love. If it's something that is very precious to them, you want to put it up high enough they can't get to it, which also means your shelves need to be sturdy enough that they can't pull them apart. If they're going to try and climb up to get to something, the shelves need to be set in stone, not the kind that pull off because they're just sitting on a little um, protrusion from the wall. So that's really important. Anything that a kid can destroy, they will. When
Hmm.
my son was little, when he first got out of the crib, we just put a mattress on the floor because he was a very much a roamer in bed. So whatever bed we gave him, he was going to fall out of. So he just was on a mattress on the floor, and he would wake up in the middle of the night. We would hear him upstairs moving his furniture around in his room, making all kinds of noise. He was a bruiser. He could move this really heavy dresser away from the wall and move it around in the middle of the room. That's what he would do at night. So no, what I tell people is that kind of thing has to be attached to the wall. If you have a heavy dresser
Ah,
that can tip, it needs to be attached to the wall. So he never thankfully did that, never pulled it over on himself because it was pretty low to the ground. But yeah, so all those kinds of things that you don't think about necessarily. How sturdy is your curtain rod? Can they yank out it and pull it out of the wall? Um, Blinds, the same kind of thing. Can they yank on them or destroy them? Uh, um, Roman shades have become very standardized with national rules about what you can do with a Roman shade, because they used to have a loop and kids could hang themselves. You could get it around your neck and not be able to get it off. So you have to take classes on how to build Roman shades. If you're somebody who creates window treatments for a living, you have to pass a class on what to do with Roman shades.
oh wow, wasn't even aware.
Yeah, yeah. I have one person who does all kinds of window treatments for me, and she doesn't do. She's getting ready to retire. She goes, "I didn't take the class because I'm not going to be doing this for much longer, and I didn't want to have to learn all that. So if I want Roman shades, I have to use somebody else because they have
Huh.
to have gone through that class."
And I'm trying to think of the configuration of those shades, but there's no breakaway. A lot of, typical shades now, there is a plastic piece where if there's any pressure,
Right.
substantial pressure, it breaks
Yeah,
apart.
it could break away, but if it breaks away, then it could come off the wall and land on the kid.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And thanks for the reminder about anchoring it to the wall. Even dressers and things like that, if you're
Mhm.
concerned about it, um, I know it's not easy and it's not pretty when you remove it or you
Yeah.
reconfigure the room, but it is what it is.
So, as far as what I want to put in a room, either a kid's room or their playroom in a house, easy to clean, easy to take care of. Polyester rugs or polypropylene rugs. You can take a polypropylene rug outside and hose it down, or something that is
Mm.
washable, like the new Ruggables things. You can stick them in the washer and wash them off. I don't buy expensive furniture. I'm fine with IKEA or a sofa that maybe is not the best quality, but it's gonna get, people are gonna they're gonna jump on it, they're gonna throw up on it, they're gonna, the snotty noses on it. So buy cheap, buy often, and that's fine for the kids' rooms. It's just don't want to spend a lot of money on something they're going to destroy.
So let's go to that point. Should you really be shopping for stuff that's disposable in so many words when it comes to your stuff for your kids. Like that's your mindset going into it.
It's for me, it needs to last. It needs to be the in the 5 to 10 year or 5 to 6 year range of how long it's going to last. Because when they're little kids, they really are hard on furniture, and they've got dirty fingers, and that's just gets ruined. So, it might. There's no reason to spend a lot of money on it. And it's good enough for them. They don't have bad backs or need any kind of support when they're sitting down. So it doesn't have to be good quality. And the same with a desk that for a little kid, they're only going to need that desk for a few years. They're only doing homework for 5 or 6 years before they go away to college. So it doesn't have to be great quality. I don't want it to be just really cheap, unsightly things, but I don't spend a lot of money on those.
Got it. Well, I think that's where your expertise comes in, because you can take some of those things that might not be more expensive and make them look a certain way where they look fantastic and they fit the design and all of that.
Yeah. There are a lot of really fun looking, good looking area rugs now that are not expensive at all. That's with the advent of polypropylene and polyester things. You can just find all kinds of things that look good, and they'll last all through childhood, and then you can just throw it out and you don't care about it anymore.
What about now? We mentioned IKEA, but have you ever shopped on Facebook Marketplace and places like that for stuff that's slightly used where you don't want to make that big investment?
I personally don't do that for my clients. Whatever I'm going to get them is new. If they want to shop on Facebook Marketplace, I'm happy for them to say, I just saw this. What do you think of it? Will it work in the room? I want to be involved in the design of the room rather than then just buying something thinking it's going to fit, and then it's too big, or the color is hideous or whatever. So that's a discussion I would have with anybody who's in that mindset of trying to shop for anything used. You have to involve me enough to make sure it's going to fit.
Right. Yeah, 100%. But sometimes you get some good finds.
Yeah, yeah, you can. You absolutely can.
In the house that I'm referring to, all the artificial plants in that house all came off of Facebook Marketplace, and people sell that stuff and it's in perfect condition. Well, maybe a little bit of dust, you wipe it down. Like really expensive plants.
Yeah.
Not exaggerating. $20.
Yeah.
It's mind blow. But the challenge is getting it to your home, because I got some pretty tall, 10-foot plants or whatever, just dramatic 8-foot. Just transporting, a little bit of a challenge. You got to figure that out. But
that's what my convertible's for. Put the top down and I can get anything home.
Ooh, never thought of that. You're a wealth of interesting ideas, Marcia.
That's the designer's pickup truck. That's what I call it. That's
and
that's my convertible.
And you probably bought it not even thinking thinking like, but
I
subconsciously
bought it thinking I'm not going to be able to put anything into here, and I can get almost anything in there that I could get in the SUV I had beforehand.
Never
just can't be raining.
Right. What's the best way to connect with you, find you if somebody needs some advice on kids' rooms or any kind of design?
MarciaMooreDesign.com. Marcia is spelled Marcia.
And Moore?
Moore.
Gotcha.
I guess there are different ways of spelling that.
Yeah, for sure. And starts with a conversation. Everybody's got ideas. They could bounce them off you in terms of what you can handle, and take it from there. Thanks so much for being here today.
You're so welcome.
We'll see you next week. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.